I guess I'll kind of just get started on my thoughts right now. Hated losing to OSU. Obviously, that was just not fun at all. I pretty much just we had plans, we had friends over watching it. It pretty much just we didn't even do anything that night. We just kind of hung around and were depressed. And actually, we hopped on a space. So if you were on that space, you'll probably hear a repeat of a lot of what was said that night. I am. How do I want to start? I guess I wasn't really that annoyed that it was the last Bedlam. I don't. I think whenever series ends, no one's going to confuse Oklahoma State and OU's programs. Like it pretty. I mean, it's just it's so lopsided. I'm not. It was the last Bedlam. Sure, I'm sure, but no one's going to judge that entire series and rivalry by the last game. I just don't think that would be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm totally on an island on that, and that's fair. That's just kind of how I thought. I didn't really. The fact it was the last isn't why I was mad. I get mad and I was upset because, and still annoyed. And I think like the frustration comes from like with anything, it comes from whenever something can work out a certain way and it just doesn't. And it's because of an expectation, right? Like we lose these games because in ways that just are so against what we know we're capable of as a team because we've seen them play that way. We've seen them play disciplined, and we've seen them play without the penalties, without the turnovers. And to see them lose games and to have those kind of mistakes in those key moments really do start to really, I know I'm speaking for all of us, but irk, and that's kind of what is so frustrating about these losses. Like if we were losing to teams like that were like I don't want to say like last year because we lost to teams we should have beaten then, but like you lose to Texas last year, who probably even with a healthy team, they could have beaten us. At that point you think, all right, they're a good team, they're good athletes, they're gonna win those games. When you lose to teams by having 6 turnovers in 2 games, 19 penalties in 2 games, like when you're already, struggling in certain areas, you're not gonna win games doing that. And for me, that's more than anything right now. And I know people are gonna have opinions on Levy and opinions on. Uh, I saw tweets going around doing the is BV the right guy again. I know people are going to have opinions on that, and so I'm kind of just saving all the points that everyone else wants to make and letting those people make them. But whenever you are losing games the way we are, which is just undisciplined, and the penalties, I know, people are, we're in the 120s. We're right next to USC and Colorado in penalties now, and I know some people are thinking, Chad, yeah, that's the Big 12 refs. We're leaving the Big 12. Yeah, Texas is like fifth, sixth. They're one of the least penalized teams in the country. Now, I hope that they have 45 thrown on them this weekend because I want Texas to lose because it helps Oklahoma. But there's no excuse really for what we're doing. I don't understand, and I never will, how a receiver who isn't even they can't even hear the quarterback or the lineman talk. The only thing they really can do is to look at a football and see when it moves. I don't understand how you have 3 false starts, maybe 4, by the receivers in 2 games. I don't get that. Like and I always feel weird criticizing players because obviously they are, otherworldly and astronomically better and more talented than I ever was at the sport. Like but there are just things that you can't, the basics that you can't do. Like good teams master the basics. Like professionals master basics. And right now we are shooting ourselves in the foot over and over again. Um, we're having even when we're having our up tempo offense working. You get false starts, and that it totally changes everything about your offensive play calling, your everything about you're losing yardage in those situations, and it kills you. Um, we are the snap issues right now. Um, controlling. We have 6 turnovers, I think, in 2 games. I don't know. Did we have 6 through 5 at the beginning of the year? We were the number 1 team in turnover differential. And now I think we're like 50th. I don't even know if we're that impressive. I think we're like around 50. Maybe I'm that's a little just bro science there. I haven't really looked it up, but I'm assuming we're not anywhere close compared to after these last 2 games. And that has really been what I'm most upset about. Like obviously we all have issues, maybe play calling. Um, I think that Dylan right now. I think what a lot of teams have discovered on him is that if they can take away the short routes, they can play closer to the line and just force him to try to throw it over 50 yards deep. He doesn't have the strongest arm. His sweet spot really is throwing 10 to maybe 40 yards, and kind of hitting those timing routes, those seam routes, or the deep posts. And whenever they're forcing him to throw it deep 40 or 50 yards, it just he doesn't have that arm strength, and he's kind of now there are times whenever you can throw, he'll throw a deep ball and float it, and it'll be, the receiver will come back to it. You can plan for that, like that's a way to throw a deep ball, but that's not how you throw all of them. That is a play specific way to throw it. I mean, that's more than a three ball. That's like a 3.5, and typically you get it like kind of what they do with Brennan Thompson every night. They did it at Kansas. You want him to run the defender off, and then when he is ready, he cuts back and comes and gets it. It's just a quick way to get a big completion. But like the Jalil Farouk play, that's a touchdown if you have a guy in there with a stronger arm. And there are a lot of plays right now that I just think are limited by some of the arm strength issues Dylan has. And everyone in here knows me. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying we should start someone else. That is, I think, a horrible idea. I think you can give, I think you can give time with Arnold, but I mean, there is a reason why they don't just, if trust me, people, if he was Caleb Williams, he'd be starting. He would have started at the beginning of the year. I think you don't. I think you don't need to rush Arnold in. I'm sure you can give him some time and some snaps. I'd love to see that because he is very talented. I don't think that it'd be wise or prudent to start playing him. If we play 80 snaps, playing him 65 of them. I just don't think that's a good idea right now, especially at the quarterback position. You really need that position to be solidified. Uh, Last thing I'll say, and then I'll kind of get to people who want to. I want to go to Colton actually first, and then Ryan, and then I'll go to Hands after that. Is one thing that I have been thinking, and I don't know if it's true. And actually, Matt had a good post about this uh, on Twitter. He said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing that. We and I'll just say because I know I did, got a little overhyped after the Texas game, and I probably thought we were better than what we were. And I know we're not as bad as what it feels like we are right now. And that's encouraging and also frustrating, which makes it hard to deal with right now. But we also have to remember we have a lot of young guys getting a lot of time that haven't won a lot of college football games. And winning is its own sort of skill. And you're dealing with a team that went 6-7 last year, and that is still trying to. And you're dealing with coaches too that a lot of them, are still figuring it out. They're a lot better. I mean, we're a lot better than we were a year ago, but it's still a process, and that's it's frustrating to hear and it's annoying to hear, but it's the reality of it. You can't, you're not. It's rare that unless you take with you a all-world player wherever you go, to really just go from 0 to 100. It takes time. And the transfer portal's a thing. You can really make great improvements year over year with that. But that doesn't on great teams, the transfer portal is not where they're building their roster. The transfer portal is used to supplement your depth chart. It is used to get your second string corner, your second string center, your second string fourth, fifth string defensive lineman. It's used for those tertiary needs that really aren't, central to the core of the team. That's why Georgia is never going to doesn't get, 35, transfer or 35 or, 13, 14, 15, 16 transfers because they have a core set of players that they're using that have been in that system. And that's what Venables is trying to build. Now he's better at the portal and all those things too, but that's kind of where I'm getting at. Some of the stuff I think outside of the turnovers and just discipline issues is we still do have a young team that is learning how to win. And I think, they're figuring it out. And, this stuff, it hurts to go through whenever you're learning these lessons. But, I still have a lot of faith in this team getting to 10 games. And again, you never know what's going to happen. Texas loses, Kansas loses. It could be a Bedlam rematch in the Big 12 championship. And, I'm praying that happens. I would love nothing more than to play them with a fully healthy team, having Danny back, having all our guys back, and seeing what happens at that point. Because I think I just think we're a better team than Oklahoma State. We're obviously better than both Kansas and Oklahoma State, in my opinion. You just can't have 6 turnovers through those 2 games. And, what we were so great at earlier in the year was not turning it over, and we weren't getting penalized heavily. And now every game we just have the most, basic. Either it's misalignment, lining up offsides, false starts, those things. And it's frustrating for me as a fan to see, and I know it is for y'all. But let me get let me get to Colton. Sorry to talk y'all's ears off, but I just wanted to hit those 2 points. Colton, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'm going to try to be brief. I took a whole lot of notes. I've tried to condense them down. I got a kind of an unpopular opinion. I don't think our offensive line played their worst game of the year. I think that we definitely had some bad plays in there. Some of them were highlighted more than others just because of the time they were in there. We had the bad snap early or late. I'm sorry, that cost us big. But I thought we ran some of our best plays offensive line wise as a unit that we've ran all year. A couple of examples. Early in the game, we ran a double G pull and we executed perfectly. Sawchuck takes it to the house. Longest play, if not one of the longest, if not the longest play of the year. And then late in or I guess you could say about midway through the third, Green kicks out. Green and Rouse pull. Green kicks out. Rouse follows up the hole. Stogner seals it off. And Walker, Chad, Ryan, Sooner St. Nick, myself, we could have walked in the end zone with that one. I mean, it was so well blocked. It was actually something that Gabe and Teddy talked about in the weeds. And I was talking to Ryan and Chad about it this morning. And I was like, I said this exact same thing in my notes last night. So I think that was probably one of the best plays of the year that we've had as an offensive unit on the line. That might have been the only shining light Stogner had on Saturday. I thought he had some plays where we could really use some improvement. He whiffed on some blocks that we really needed. There was one thing that it looked like at times Guyton and Matau would pull and not really get a piece of anyone. Those things are fixable. We haven't done a whole lot of pulling until late in the year, so we expect those things. And of course, Matau, I think he's still playing on about one leg, so those kind of things are going to come and go. Hitting on the sack where Gabriel fumbled and recovers it. Stogner, he gets kind of shook on his block there, and his guy is able to get a good look at Gabriel and takes him down for the sack. One thing I'm going to get to Coach Smith as a question on here in a little bit when he gets up is there was quite a few times in the game when we were pulling where it felt like we should have had a hat on a hat, but we were just one person outnumbered. And that person, whenever we were outnumbered, was making the play not 9 times out of 10, and really causing some trouble at the line or just right after the line of scrimmage on plays that we could have, busted off. And I think that could be, a design cut person. You never know. Just a few quick stats. Looks like we had Sawchuck 13 for 111, 8.5 a carry and a TD. Walker 8 for 59 at 7.4 a carry and a touchdown. We were 27 for 148 at about 5.5 a carry. I think that's pretty close to, or maybe a little bit above our average for the year. I think OU did really well on the defensive side of the ball, holding Ollie Gordon to what they did. They rushed 11 times more than we did, and we outgained them by 2 yards. I have some notes on the defensive side of the ball, but I mean, I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to where I could really speak to those things. So as they come up later, I may touch base on those. But, just a couple of quick hits, looking ahead. West Virginia does have a couple of good defensive linemen. Mulba is a Penn State transfer, plays pretty solid. I think he's going to be healthy to play. Lockhart moves pretty quick and is able to get after it. But I think Sean Martin is their best defensive lineman. He's really fast. He's quick. He has good movement, and they run a lot of stunts with him. So that's the one I'm keeping my eye on Saturday, and hoping for a better turnaround going forward. And as far as penalties go, I'm not going to speak on it because, I'm kind of a firm believer, they did happen. I'm not going to dismiss that at all, but I'm a firm believer that regardless of what happens on the penalty side of things, we can't leave it up to an official to help us win or lose that game. So that's my take. That's where I'm at on it. Appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, real quick. Welcome to TUUUESDAY Tuesday. Gunny, if you want to get up here, Cap, Jay Holt, anybody that's in the space right now, please feel free to request the mic. We want to hear from you guys. We don't want to talk the whole time. St. Nick and Chad will talk for 2 hours. So, man, I was at the game. I don't know if everyone was on the space after the game on Saturday. I was there, and man, it was loud. Tell you what, it was a good game day atmosphere in Stillwater. Just want to put that out front. I didn't prepare anything tonight, kind of just go off the cuff. Obviously, you could feel it inside the stadium. When OU gets that ball back at 7-7, then we had a 49-yard pass to Nick Anderson, and then we fumble the snap. I guess wrong noise got to him. Again, it was loud. Snaps it to Barnes, and we fumble it. And I tell you what, it just felt like from that, and maybe a different feel watching it. And I didn't lose hope in OU, but it may be a different feel watching it, on TV. But you could feel something in the stadium when that happened. That was a huge momentum swing. OU goes down and scores right there. I think the outcome of that game is completely different. That's just my opinion. And then, of course, you've got the muff punt. I don't know what Bunkley Shelton is doing returning. I think everyone has brought that up. What's he doing returning a punt? Where was Farouk? Where was Freeman? It just seems like, and I made a tweet about it early this week, it's like, do we have the right personnel in the right place? And I even go as far as, why wasn't Kip Lewis playing Canick's position in spring ball? Why wasn't he, and maybe they saw something that we didn't, and they probably still see something that I don't. But I just question if we are playing the right people in the right moments. I'm one to think that Levy didn't call the worst game. Now, you can sit here and say he could have chose better plays on that last drive, and yeah, maybe so, but Stoops gets to the proper yard line on that 4th and 5, we may be having a different conversation. Obviously, the pass interference call on Stoops. I mean, and there's an OSU fan behind me. I mean, just this, no offense, but this nerdy little 20-year-old. I'm like, have you watched a football game in your entire life? I sit here talking to Carson, Chad, and I'm saying, Carson's even like, they're going to throw it. I'm like, hell yeah, they better throw it. This guy behind me, no, it ain't a foul. I'm like, bro, you need to go watch lacrosse. This is not the sport for you if you don't think that's a foul. I mean, it's disappointing. Boys, and Chad, you make a good point. Yes, the rivalry is lopsided. It's 91-20. It's not close. I still call it a rivalry because I want to beat the hell out of them every time we play them. But we needed to win that game. That it was the last Bedlam, and we can say there wasn't a lot of weight in it, but they're going to hold that over us. I mean, and we know how Pokes are. They win one game, and they hold on to it for 10 years. Well, if we don't get to that Big 12 title game, we don't get redemption till – there's not a time frame on that. So, I mean, I thought it was a big game that OU should have won, could have won, and let's see. I'm trying to think of more things that kind of stood out to me. I thought Gabriel played pretty well for the most part. I mean, you got Nick Anderson dropping the ball out there, and again, you're not going to catch everyone. He's not, he's not A.J. Brown. He's not Tyreek Hill. He's not going to catch everyone in college, especially his first year starting. But Nick Anderson catches that one going back towards the west end zone, about that 40-yard throw that hit him right in the numbers. I think we score on that drive too. So there was just, we really beat ourselves. It felt a lot like Texas, and us being on the Texas side of it on Bedlam, where Texas clearly had the better team on paper. We outplayed them. We clearly had the better team than OSU. They outplayed us. Venables got screwed on the penalty. Gundy, I saw, I think it was Beamer tweeted out, Gundy did the exact same thing Venables did and didn't get penalized for it. And Venables said he didn't cuss at him, so not sure what happened there. But again, I'm not one to blame the refs. We had 3 turnovers, should have won the football game. And I'll go ahead and let someone else kind of get to it, and I'll hop on what my thoughts are on West Virginia moving forward.
Go ahead, St. Nick. We only have 4 speakers right now, unless anyone else wants to request up.
Hey, I will say, I'm going to pop in real fast. I think I played the position to defend Brame a little bit too, but I think the snap, where he snapped it off Gabriel's knee was definitely a bad snap. I think the other one, I watched the play probably 15 times, and with how close Stoops is in the backfield and how Gabriel looks like he's, ready to take a handoff kind of, it just doesn't look like it was a miss snap to Barnes. I think the play was to go to Barnes, and Barnes was going to hand off to Gabriel, and they were either going to, do a sprint rollout, or they were going to reverse it to Stoops. That's just my thought. I mean, I don't want to say for sure that's what it is, but, and of course, if that's what it was, I think it was a very unnecessary wrinkle to add in there. I don't think it's necessary. Also, You guys all know I'm not a big fan of the sweep, so adding in a wrinkle to the sweep, I'm definitely not a fan of. So that was my one thing. I will say the snap off his knee was terrible.
Go ahead, St. Nick.
Hey, there's my boy Wallace. I think St. Nick might as well go ahead, Wallace. Come on up.
Yeah, go ahead, Wallace, if you're ready.
Hey, guys, I'm not going to talk about the game. Everything you guys are saying is spot on, but I've been asked a little bit, so if you want me to just to ramble for a moment, I don't know if
Sure.
you guys know or not, but
Yeah, please do.
Bosworth and I are pretty good friends. We've been going to games forever and ever and ever, and he put up that tweet that had, I don't know, 1.7, 1.8 million views with Gundy, and we tried to get some sideline passes, pregame passes. They were just impossible to get this game. It was restricted. There weren't as many, and he did a photo shoot with OU football. So I don't know if y'all noticed in some of the pictures, but he actually had the Boz cut, which he hadn't had in about 35 years. I actually thought it looked pretty good. So we got to the stadium, and he's texting Mike, and Mike's like, "Crap! If I'd have known, I'd have given you my pass." Gundy actually said that, but so that didn't work out. So the face-to-face 50-yard line meeting didn't happen. But what was pretty interesting is, I don't know what you guys' experience were with the crowd, but we parked at some center and then walked over to the golf tailgate right across from the front, and everybody was just really nice to him, nice to us. It was really, it was that same way in 2021, but we saw Scott Verplank, and he was like, "Yeah, man, they tried to take my pass from me too," and Houston Nutt and Robin Ventura. And, but what's interesting is once we got inside the stadium, people were making the comments at us and him in particular. I mean, they were good ribbing and everything. Man, we wanted to win that game so bad. We were at a buddy of mine in his suite, 33 in the suite, 6 or 7 Sooners. Mike Manna was with us. Mike played for OU with Brian. He's Mickey's second cousin. Just sort of a trivia thing that people sort of look at. They don't pay attention to him until someone points out he was Mickey's second cousin. They're like, "Oh, wow!" But they were ribbing us. Where's the Sooner magic? This and that and the other. The only thing I've got to say is the only good thing about them storming the field was with a minute to go. We like, "This all ass, guys. Let's get out of here." And we got to our car and got out of there in about 15 minutes because there was no crowd after the game. What I'm going to say about our team is we don't have any all conference players, really. Not, we had one preseason, Ethan Downs, I think. I think Dylan Gabriel's playing above his ceiling.
I think Stutzman would be an all conference guy.
I'm moving to defense.
My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, on offense. On defense, Stutzman will be all conference. I don't know if he'll be first team. If he comes back, he will be. Bowman maybe. Woody could be. So having said that, when we were really good, when we were dominating people, the stuff that, and we were still losing games, but in those old days, we still had all Americans. And I always talk about the 85 national championship team. We had 3 college football Hall of Famers on defense, Tony Casillas, Bosworth, and Ricky Dixon. And then we had 1983 Big 8 Defensive Player of the Year, consensus All-American Kevin Murphy. And on offense, we had Keith Jackson, College Football Hall of Famer. We had 2-time All-American Anthony Phillips, 2-time All-American Mark Hudson, All-American Greg Johnson on the offensive line. Troy Aikman started the first 4 games. When Troy got hurt, he transferred because, one of the best option quarterbacks of all time, Jamil Holloway, replaced him. So this team, I think they're playing above their ceiling. I think our coaches are doing a better job than people give them credit for because we don't have those great players, not yet. We all want to win out, go 10-2, which is kind of what I thought we would be at the beginning of the season. But it's, we lost 2 big games on the road. I don't know what it is about these one-score deals last year and this year. It's just kind of weird. It's either we're playing up.
Wallace, let me ask you a question.
Ask
you a question. What are your thoughts on this West Virginia game?
We can lose it. I think it's going to come down to a one-score possession. So last year I thought 7 games were losable or toss-ups, and they were all the road games. And then I was wrong about Texas last year. But West Virginia, we could lose. We could win 3 games. We could lose 3 games. We could go 1-2. We could go 2-1. West Virginia at times has played really well. At times they haven't. I think we're going to be a lot healthier this game. I think Stutzman's going to come back. I think our running backs are going to be healthy. A 6 o'clock kick at home is what we need. We play like crap on these 11 o'clock kicks. Um, I think we're going to have a bounce back. I think we're going to do okay. I still think that Oklahoma State's going to, Texas.
They got a tough game this weekend.
I still think we can make the Big 12 championship. I honestly do, because there's 3 games to go. Oklahoma State's going to have their letdown like we had after Texas. Let's don't count that out. I mean, this was their Super Bowl. I mean, that's a term that we've used a lot lately. But they're going to have a letdown. Texas is still playing that freshman quarterback who, I mean, he's a freshman. He's 18 years old. There's a lot of football left to go, and I think we're down through our trough, and we're gonna get healthy, and I think we're gonna come back. And I like the fact we have 2 out of 3 games at home. What bugs me is the BYU game. I don't want it to be an 11 o'clock kick, because that'll be 10 o'clock our time, and that'll be bad. It's a little bit of altitude. BYU's not very good this year, but what you don't want to do is just get out there, get altitude, get a weird start, and have it be a high scoring game. But I think we're going to win. I think we're going to beat West Virginia, and I still think we're going to finish 10-2.
Well, it's going back to your point you made earlier, and kind of just, I guess anyone can kind of jump up and speak on. And Ho, did you want to say something before I go off on a different tangent there?
No, I'll just jump in later.
I was just talking about this after the OSU game. Going back to your point about the players, I don't know. I was trying to think of what player this year starts on any of those 2016 to 2019 playoff teams, and I don't think one of them do. Maybe Tyler Guyton. On the offensive side.
No,
obviously defense you could change a lot, but
I don't even know if Guyton starts.
Nobody on offense starts.
Yeah, I don't know if any. And so we're already, and part of that is they are rebuilding still. I mean, I know a lot of people want it, are the transfer portal. You can't that's not a remedy. That is something you use, as I said earlier, to start a supplement. You got to have the pieces first, and then you use that to give you good backup and good depth.
Well, yeah. Let me just say this, and I don't know if some of you all know or not. I mean, I'm a donor to the program, whatever that means. But behind closed doors, what they told us was don't give us 3 years, bitch in year 4.
Right. That's what I've been. Yes.
Yeah, they said give us 3 years, and as far as I don't. So what's interesting is like 70%. This is the stat that holds true through most universities. I've talked to Zach Selman at Mississippi State since he's gotten there. Talked to our guys. 60 or 70% of the people that give to the NIL don't give to the university. So NIL money to date, believe it or not, has been new money. What I've told, and I haven't given any money to NIL. I give a lot of money to the university, but I haven't given any money to the NIL. But, some of the people that I know are in the same position as me. It's like, if I want to give NIL money, I'm not going to give it to a high school junior. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a Charles Haley. It's like, okay, we're this close to getting through. Let's go after an All-American that's at another, like Jordy Ball leaving OU. That's what some people are talking about now with NIL, because if you're going to do it, don't waste it on a 17-year-old high school junior or senior. Try to go get somebody that's a proven player that fills a need that can put you over the top. And of course, we're not there yet. But that whole NIL thing is evolving, and so many people have gotten burned signing kids out of high school, and then they come to school, and then they want to leave after a year. And I mean, you're in law school. It's almost like you have to have a legally binding contract. Where it's a 3-year deal, sort of like SMU and Pony and Seth.
Well,
even when they got busted, they still paid the kids.
No, yeah. Just to reiterate, just to talk about that for 1 second, we had a panel come in to talk about that. One of them is a representative for those who do donations to NILs, and they were getting some pushback because a lot of them now are wanting to put, I'll give you this NIL contract, but you need to play in 45% of the snaps and have this much production, or there's going to be a reduction in your NIL contract. Because what a lot of people, just real quick, and we'll get back on this, business goes both ways. And if you're going to be part of it, there are going to be expectations on you as a player to be worth the investment that they're giving you in the NIL contract. And that, I think, is a discussion a lot of people don't want to think about right now, because they just want to pay the players. You know, the people that are donating to a lot of this stuff are businessmen, and it's a cost benefit analysis, and if they're not going to make a return on that that's worth the investment, they're not going to make the investment. And so, you know, A&M right now is running into those same issues. It's do we, you know, they're looking at, you know, they've given all this money to NIL and it's not paying off, and now they're looking at the Jimbo Fisher buyout options purportedly and different things there. So I'm kind of curious where that goes in the long run. But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, boss. I just kind of wanted to put a point on that. Yeah, there's going to have to be some sort of contracts coming up.
Oh, well, that's exactly right. And let's don't forget sliced bread. I mean, he started on a OU Sooner message board, if you'll remember. If y'all remember who sliced bread
I
was.
don't know. I don't know. I've never been on the message boards.
Yeah,
Never been
that's
on
where
one.
sliced bread was actually responding to some people were complaining about OU's NIL, and so the whole sliced bread where that happened is then somebody posted on like Student Insider or something like that, and then it was lifted and transposed. So actually sliced bread you could probably surmise was a Sooner.
Well, there you go.
But anyway, no, West Virginia. You know, we've had their number, but they're just sneaky. Last year, that game they beat us, but it was a weird game. Every game last season was a weird game. But I mean, I expect us to win. I expect us to win out, but I always expect us to win.
I do too. Let me go to my dad just joined. I want kind of. Oh wait, Hope, you raised your hand there, man. Go ahead.
Well, hey, since I'm going to talk in here every week with you guys, I'm just going to let you know that, yeah, I'm down here in Texas. My dad had tickets whenever Switzer screwed up. I don't remember the year, 88, 89. So we got tickets back then. Let him go, and I got him back as soon as I saw Stoops interviews on TV. And I'm like telling my dad, okay, I think this dude's going to turn our program around. We need to get our tickets back. And so we've had them since then. So just to let you know, I'm definitely a homer, but I'm a critic. But at the same time, I just want I was going to ask a couple questions. One has to go back to who would you rather see win the Big 12, OSU or Texas? So I'm going to ask that here in just a second. But what Wallace was saying about the 3 years, I made a comment on someone in here, Chad's or somebody's post, about people don't need to freak out. Like I said this last week, like Venables said this after the Texas game. We're not a championship caliber team yet. You know, we're still learning how to win games. We're still learning how to be a championship program and have locker room leadership, blah, blah, blah. And, but the cool thing is I also said that this summer about 3 years. Like you give a blue blood program like OU going into the SEC. You know, I was hoping we'd win 9, maybe 10 games, kind of like predicted. Maybe everybody else kind of said that too. Is what I'm talking about. And then then we were all excited, Red River, blah blah blah, and now we're all pissed. And but the thing is these kids are getting better, and they are running the ball better. Someone in here said something about like the buck sweep, or sort of like a buck sweep. They didn't have someone pinning over there, but they pulled both guards. They're running gap. I literally said that last week. I'm like, we don't get enough push on zone. I'd like to see us do a little more gap scheme stuff. And dude, against their 5-man front, we were making safeties have to make tackles. So yeah, Levy has the mind if he will just get out of that bullshit. Go as fast as you can, run zone, sweeps, swings, and all that, and just go at the teeth of it. With this run game, and so we've seen that improvement. I just wanted to say, I more than pissed at OSU beating us and how it happened and all that, but realizing that we're going to be all right. And once we start winning, and we got these recruits coming in this next year, and now SEC dudes are not just wanting to go to Georgia and Alabama. Now they can go to Oklahoma and LSU and Texas and places like that. We're going to be all right. Okay. So here's my question, if you'll let me ask. I'm not an OU grad, but you heard my backstory, with being a fan. Why OSU? Why do you guys hate OSU more? Is it because you went to school at OU and can't stand them, or and not Texas? Because I personally cannot cheer for Texas one game, not one. Okay, go. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yeah, no problem. I would love to answer this. I'd rather Texas win it 100 out of 100 years, and I would.
It's
It
not
is not
close.
even.
Not close.
It is not even. Like, I have a harder time picking. Would I rather get, I don't know, the ability to fly or like $1 billion tomorrow? I mean, it's just not even a consideration for me, and I'll tell you why. It's because I grew up, and Coach Lumen is in the chat too. One of my guys, and one of my former coaches, and he knows there are. And they're actually my friends, but they are diehard Oklahoma State fans. And fair enough to them, they were going at me hard when they had Justin Blackman and all those guys. And it's probably similar to what you heard all the time when you played Texas. It was torturous. That's the only way I can explain it. And then I'll let Ryan go and someone else answer. But the last point is, when it comes to Texas, I can respect their program. They have national championships, Heisman winners, conference championships. Oklahoma State has a few victories over OU. Like, I mean, that is what they've built their program. And to hear just oh man, just, of course, I'm 30 now. I don't get as wound up as I did when I was 17 and 16, but it was just,
I'd argue that,
torturous.
Chad. I would argue
torturous.
you don't get wound up as much.
Well, okay. That's true.
Man, no, I'll give 15 seconds on it. Yeah, I would 100% go for Texas over OSU. We grew up with in Ardmore and Justin Blackman, Jermaine were about the same age, and Justin Blackman went to a rival school, well, somewhat of a rival school at Plainview, and he was a great player, and we supported him. But it's diehard OU fans, and what Blackman did against us, and having to hear it back home, and we're surrounded by pokes, and we golf, and we're not surrounded by Texas fans, so I would 100% go for Texas over OSU. And Texas leaving the Big 12. I don't want OSU to win the Big 12 and OU's last season in it. Hell no.
Yeah.
I guess I'm way older than you guys, but from birth to about 20-something years old is how long it took OSU to beat OU for me. So it was never a rivalry. Yeah, I got to see Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas, all those dudes as a teenager and stuff like that. So that was a big freaking game. But the people that I did not want to lose to was always Texas.
Oh, and you make it. Sorry to interrupt. You make a good point about the age difference, because if you think about it, yeah, Chad and I are 31, and that kind of goes hand in hand with when we grew up. OU was always good. We were too young during the John Blake era. We came in right at Stoops. I remember watching the 2000 national championship at 8 years old. I remember it, kind of vividly, but we never saw the dark hours of OU. And so I think where we come from is, Bob Stoops takes us to a certain degree, and then we lived through the Riley era of winning 6 straight Big 12 championships. So all we have ever known is OU wins.
Yeah,
that's all we've ever known. We grew up with that.
Right. Like there was like all the way up from till 2000. Like, I mean, I was at the national title game, in Miami, and it was like, dude,
that's badass.
Like OSU was, they weren't even a threat. Now they would play tight games, like I said, they would play tight games, but for like 25 years, like they won like one game. And Bob Simmons and those guys, as John Blake and the bullshit that we went through with that. But then it was just like, anyway. So that's I guess that makes sense to me now, because
it's an age thing. I mean, Switzer lost to Oklahoma State once. You're my age. Gary Gibbs. Gary never lost to Oklahoma State. But living in Texas, there's no way I want to see Texas win this. If it's Oklahoma State, Texas, I want Oklahoma State to win. And a little bit of it's nostalgia for me because I've been around Mike Gundy for so long. But how can you rip someone's face off for saying they want Texas to lose? But at the same time, how can you rip someone's face off for saying they want Oklahoma State to lose? I mean, it's a
lose-lose.
So
it's a lose-lose, and it's geographic. So for you guys in Oklahoma, I want Texas to win, but for us living in Texas, we want Oklahoma State to win.
Well, I'll just say this: when Vince Young won it, and family, everyone, I wasn't living down here yet, But they were all like, "Oh yeah, we're cheering for Texas because they're in the Big 12." I was like, "You're not a fucking OU fan if you're cheering for Texas." So I'll end it there. Thanks, guys.
Well, I was cheering for Texas that game because I was at that OU USC national championship game.
Well, I take
Okay,
the,
I'm
I
gonna
take the
go ahead and
Bosworth. Burnt orange makes me want to puke. So I'm sorry. That's where I'm
yeah,
at.
both oranges are terrible. Hey, we're gonna go to PLS. Coach Smith, he coached defense at OU for a couple of years and coached at OBU, and we kind of want to hear his thoughts on the defensive side and offensive side this last Bedlam. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Dad, before you
Coach.
go, Ryan, to piggyback off that, we were talking after the OSU game, and you mentioned, because we were talking about changes, and you just mentioned how sometimes it's hard for coaches. After you talk about the defense and all that, and then Matt, I see your hand. I'll go to you next, and then Stefan, I'll go to you. Talk about that a little bit afterwards, after you talk about what you saw defensively.
First, I gotta talk about who I hate the worst. I used to be a fan of any Oklahoma team that wasn't playing OU, and I wanted them to win. And I always hated Texas. But when you go to church nowadays and OSU wins, guess what? Guess what they wear? They wear their OSU stuff, and I never
And
see
it's
it all year
ugly.
long.
Oh, it's
I never,
ugly.
I never see it all year long. But do you ever see Oklahoma people doing that? No, because we expect to win. We're in a different level than they are, and so that irks me a little bit. But so I used to not bother me, but it does now. It kind of bothers me more now that we get beat by OSU. When I was at OU, we didn't even consider it a rivalry. It was just one of those games, guys. We haven't lost to them in forever. We can't even remember the last time we lost, and we go down there and beat the crap out of them, and then come home and get ready for Texas. Um, but anyway, going back to the game, I thought our defense played well enough to win the game. Yeah, they made some. They're always going to make some mistakes throughout the game. That's just part of it. But they played well enough to win the game, and they're going to play well enough throughout the year to win the game because I don't see them ever not playing hard. That's the mo. The That's what they have in them. That's their DNA is playing fast. When the ball's being thrown, even though they get a 10-yard, there's about 5 or 6 white jerseys there. Boom, they're making the tackle. So they're running the football very well. So that's not the problem. The offense is just not supporting the defense, and it's complementary. We heard this Sunday night. We had the spaces going about this, but it's complementary football, and I can't remember who was talking about it, but it was so true. The offense has got to complement the defense. The defense is getting these 3 and outs. They're stopping them on 4th down. We're getting a turnover, and our offense doesn't respond with points, and that just kills you. And so I just, offense has got to be more consistent. I think there were times that, they looked really good. I was really disappointed at the end. Yeah, the pass interference was pass interference. He even caught the football down there at the end. So, yeah, I was disappointed. But all in all, it's kind of weird. Lehman said it too. It's kind of weird, kind of mushy, to talk about the defense a little bit because there was a lot of good and there's some bad, but you're going to get that every game. And that wasn't the reason we lost. They did a great job against that tailback. I thought the OSU quarterback played above what he played all year long, throwing the ball. And guys, I'll tell you, Mike Gundy, you can say whatever you want to. The guy's a good coach. I mean, he takes nothing and he builds it and he makes it into something, and he has a competitive team every year. And I have a lot of respect for him for that because I would not want to be coaching in Stillwater where that's located and how you got to get there, and the town is nothing. I mean, my gosh, he's done a great job. But that's my 2 cents. I think we're going to go 10-2. I think we're going to win out. I hope we get lucky enough to see OSU in the Big 12 because if we're healthy, it's a 2 or 3 touchdown defeat, and we're going to smoke them. That's my 2 cents.
No, I agree. Dad, talk about what you said to me about your experience just dealing with coaches at the college level, kind of, and them trying to change, make adjustments. Because one thing I think Levy could do better is, like I think one thing you could do is the speed up stuff. I think they figured out, they're not going to be, refs are never going to not stop the ball and the game whenever there is some guy down. They just can't risk. I mean, if you can't judge if a guy's injured or not. I mean, on a practical level, you're going to get sued out of existence because whoever's kid that is going to, you know, sue you for all your worth as a university if you just ignore that their son's injured. So they're going to, and teams are just doing that. I mean, that's what UCF started doing, and it's an actual strategic thing you can do. So kind of mention, you're talking about just how it's hard sometimes for coaches, and then I'll go to Matt.
Let me. This is what I was talking. Chad and I went to church and we were eating, and I was telling him. I said, Chad, the biggest thing that coaches got to do, they got to reflect. They got to look in the mirror, and they've got to self scout. And if you're not self scouting yourself, you're doing a disservice. And I know they self scout because people, we had all this success, and then people start scouting us, and we got to self scout to see what they're seeing. Why are these plays not working? What do we need to do better? What do we need to change to be successful? Because if you don't self scout, you're killing yourself. You're killing your team because you can't do the same thing over and over. You not need to tweak it here, tweak it there. What are they doing in the red zone? They're blitzing more in the red zone. A lot of people do that. So my biggest thing is they've got to look themselves in the mirror. They've got to do a lot of self-scout, and they've got to be willing to change a little bit, not too much out of what they believe in, because that's really important. And then in the spring and in the fall they have things that they've put in their toolbox that these kids have done that they can pull it out, and they know what they're talking about. They just need to practice a little bit to help them find something else to help them on offense. I know. And defensive too, because we're doing some of the same things and people figure it out. That's why we hadn't gotten any sacks, because they figured out some things. So self-scout's a big deal. It's a real thing that has to happen in high school, but especially in college. And I know they do it in the NFL because you can see the changes when they defend people. Why aren't they having this success? It's because they self-scouted them, and they figured it out what stops you. So you got to figure out how to overcome that, and that's a big challenge. And that's the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. And taking that pride and putting it on the back, that's a big deal.
Hey, Coach, I had a quick question. Earlier, I was talking about how we were running some of our counter pulls and stuff, and it seemed like we just never, on some of those plays, we just didn't have a hat on a hat. We were always one guy outnumbered. Do you think that was someone we were using to try and cut off of, or was someone missing an assignment there? Sometimes it looked like we didn't have a guard getting off in time and getting to the backside backer. Maybe that was it. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
So, some of that's their safety plays pretty good. I mean, those guys, they really come down hard. And in that 3-3, then I've run that defense, and your safeties get involved in that. And we do that on OU. I mean, you see that too. But they have a couple of guys that are pretty good defending that, and it's hard to pick them up. And if you're a really good athlete versus an offensive lineman, you can overcome that. Look at Stalkner. He couldn't block that going outside to save his life because he's out-athleted. I mean, there was just no way that was going to happen. So, but that's what it was. That's the difference. 3-3 can cause you a lot of problems because you never know where the two eye and the shade's going to be, and that's what offensives look at when they run plays. So that determines how you block it. So you're always changing that up, and they never know where that's going to be. And sometimes that can really make it hard and screw up your blocking. And that's what they did. And they do it pretty good. Efficiently, Iowa State runs it too. They're good at it too. So that's where that's coming from. That's where some of those missed blocks have. Now, again, if they get it blocked up like Sawchuk, that one play you were talking about blocked up, that was beautiful. And, we scored on. We just didn't get enough of those.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it. Matt, man, go ahead. Sorry to keep you waiting there. Hey, let me give you a plug before. Hey, his captain site is $2 a month right now, and it's legit, man. He does a really good job.
Really good work.
He had some info on if you remember I don't know if I pronounced his name correct, but the Trine Washington kid from Carl Albert that committed on the same
Reggie
night
Powers too.
on the Reggie Powers. He had sent some stuff a couple days even before that, to talking about, hey, he's already let OU know he wants to surprise sign the same night, and it was kind of neat to know that a little bit. It's $2 a month right now, and I don't know how long that's going to last. Probably another, I think you said to the 15th or something, but I just wanted to plug that for you, Matt, before you go, man.
Well, thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. That the $2 a month is through the 15th, and if you lock in that rate, then that's the rate that you'll pay for as long as you've got an account there. But appreciate the plug for sure. wanted to hop in real quick and drop a little bit of information that I've come across. One is on kind of the bad news front. I found out earlier this evening that Eddie Pierre Louis has informed the coaches that he's not going to make it to Norman this weekend. Now, this is, if there's anybody that's notorious for changing his mind and shifting things around, it's this guy for sure. But as of right now, he's not planning on making it in. The guy that I was talked to about this told me that the coaches are trying to change his mind on that. So we'll see if they can be successful on that front. But that's the plan as of right now. I'll keep an eye on that as we go through this week. And then, I've been somebody that's been pretty critical or pretty quick to point out some of the things that Levy has been struggling with, and some of the stuff that's popped up especially the last couple of weeks, or the last 3 weeks, that are shades of last year to some degree. But I guess there's nothing quite like having your back against the wall to affect some change. And talking to a couple of people today, it sounds like we can expect to see some pretty major adjustments from the offensive staff in general or as a whole, but from Levy as well. And I think we've seen some of that in bits and pieces over the last couple of weeks. That's led to some of the improvements in the run game. And I think from what I've heard, if there's anything that Levy would do differently, or that maybe Brent Venables has even voiced a little bit of an opinion about, is that when you're averaging 7 yards a carry, your running backs need more than 20 combined carries. And so it's stuff like that I think we could quite possibly see some adjustments made that would flip the narrative that's been floating around over the last couple of weeks, especially about Levy and his future at OU. But we'll have to see how it plays out. I would bet, though, if I was going to put money on it, I would bet that there's some substantive differences that aren't just window dressing, but actually the result of some pretty intense evaluations that they're doing internally about things that they could do differently. And I think it's probably pretty advantageous for them that a guy like Gavin Sawchuk is definitely looking healthier at this point, and is getting his timing back with the offensive line and setting up blocks, so where he can take full advantage of his abilities and also take full advantage of what the offensive line is able to do. And so anyway, that's what I'm looking for going into this weekend. Just heard some really good things about how the team has responded, how the staff has responded. Obviously, it's kind of human nature to pull inward or to react in a negative way whenever you've got goals that aren't really under your control anymore, and it could go south really quickly for these guys. But I think you're seeing Brent Venables' culture and leadership really take hold, and from what I've heard, the team has responded in a way that should put them in a position to put the best foot forward against West Virginia and everything. Now, you never know how it's going to turn out. Games are weird, things happen, so we'll have to see. But as far as doing what they need to do and responding in the way that they need to in order to give themselves a chance, it sounds like they're, at least so far this week, taking advantage of that and responding in a good way. So just some information I've come across, and yeah, go ahead.
Matt, so I wanted to add, I know you came out with a note on Grant Bricks. How is that look? Can you give a little sneak peek in that, or how does that kind of sound, or is it still kind of 50-50 up in the air a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely hesitate to say anything too definitive about him, but what I can say is I've been feeling, I think if you read some of the other outlets out there, that are familiar with his recruitment, I think they've kind of been saying the same thing, is that if he visits OU this weekend, then you have to like. From what I've heard, sorry, I got a phone call, so I may have gotten cut off there. But from what I've heard, the visit is still on for Bricks. He's going to be in Norman this weekend, and I see that as a very good sign. Everybody that I've talked to at OU is still very confident in their position, and the take that they've had is if, as long as he shows up, then we feel really good. I actually would not be surprised if he turns in his chip this weekend if he does show up. So now I feel like there's been about 4 different times over the last 2 months where I felt like a Bricks commitment to OU was going to happen within the next 24, 48 hours. But we'll see. My understanding is that there was some push and pull within his inner circle about where he was going to end up, and these visits were a final condition that he was asked to meet before making a final call, but that he and some of his family have pretty much they have a leader which is OU, and have had a leader for a while now in that race. So again, I can't say anything overly definitive, but that's been the trend for a while now, and in the sense, even going back to last weekend, or coming right off of his visit to Nebraska, whenever the Nebraska people were increasing their confidence level on that side, everybody that I talked to at OU felt that they were still going to be in the pole position as long as he maintained that visit, or those plans to visit OU, and actually followed through on that. So we'll keep an eye on it and
That's
see.
great,
But
dude. Man. Oh, sorry to interrupt. My bad. I hope they can get that guy in, man. I think he'd be a good addition. I think he's got. I know a lot of people are skeptical on him because they saw some video of him jogging. That's just typical Twitter judgment to make. But
And I think that's a big thing that they're going to tackle in the transfer portal this offseason is the offensive line as well. But yeah, we definitely want Grant and Pierre Lou to get in there.
Let me go to Stefan, and then I want to go to St. Nick after that. I know he's been on. Haven't seen a hand, but I'm sure he'll have some thoughts. Go ahead, Stefan.
Appreciate it, Chad. Can y'all hear me okay? All right,
yep.
Perfect. So I raised my hand a while ago, mostly because of the whole OSU versus Texas thing. So I'll be brief on that just because that's really what it was about. But I grew up in the Tulsa area at Broken Arrow. And so my senior year was the national championship. Senior year of college was national championship against Florida. So my senior year final home game was the famous Texas Tech game, which was amazing. But the rivalry with OSU, I think, comes a lot more, in my opinion, from family and the youth. In high school, you got a lot of people that are choosing Oklahoma State over OU, and so a lot of my high school is going there. And then when you're in college, you keep those friendships. And so, I absolutely despise Texas, but I absolutely despise Oklahoma State fan base. Just perfect example is this weekend. I had to go to a freaking wedding during the Bedlam game, and it was family, and 90% of them are OSU fans. They were showing the game during the wedding, and there were high moments, but I just had this feeling, because I think Chief said it earlier, or not earlier today, but last week, talking about seizing the middle game moments. And then Stoyo came out and talked about the 25 possessions in the second half. And that's what I've been feeling all year, is the defense capitalizes and we just don't put people away. And we let people hang around, and that's what happens when you let people hang around. And you give them an inch, they'll take it a mile, and it was frustrating. But having to be at that, they went nuts when the game was over. They played their song, and it was the most miserable thing I could be a part of. And then all of a sudden, my phone blows up with text messages from people I haven't heard from in like 4 years, from high school, just like bashing that I've had no communication with. And I'm like, typical Poke fans, man. Texas, I feel like, they're our actual rival. Oklahoma State just hasn't won enough to be a true rival. I mean, they're always a team that can knock us off because they're in state. And I feel like that, that's kind of how that rolls. But that was really all I was going to say. Was my piece on that was I can't stand Oklahoma State fans. And so if those two teams meet up in the Big 12 championship, man, I don't know. I don't know who I'm going to root for. I can't root for either of them.
Man, I'd get it. And listen, it's not an easy decision. We get it's difficult. It's two evils. It's like Voldemort or like Darth Sidious. Who would you rather be best friends with? I mean, they're both bad options. Let's not kid ourselves. But say Nick, man, I haven't seen a hand. If you're busy, I just wanted to get your thoughts on really kind of what we've been talking about. If you're there.
I got such a crazy house with all these girls
Hey,
right
no
here. I
worries.
got these Girl Scouts. I'm listening, but I'm afraid of my mic will be too crazy.
No worries
If
at
somebody
all.
wants something to talk, just give me a few more minutes. I'm trying to make it happen.
No problem. No problem at all, man. It's just I know that you usually have some things. So I figured you're probably busy with something, but
Chad, and I'll just kind of jump in here just to kind of fill just a couple of minutes. And man, I was very critical, and I called a lot of heat on Monday. I threw some tweets out there, and I was very critical of the team. And I think that, and again, I fully support where we're heading. I think Venables is the right guy. I think Levy's the right guy for the moment too, if you ask me. But I think after the Texas game, when you're 6-0 and then you come back, you win a close one against UCF, you're 7-0. I think the reason that I'm so critical is because I think these guys really did have what it took to go 11-0, 12-0 in the regular season. And the good thing about where we're at now is, yes, we've lost 2 games that really we should have won. You got bad weather in Kansas that jeopardized the play calling. You lost trust in your quarterback during that game. It was completely blatant that that's what happened. Some bad play calling down the stretch there. And then, you have 3 turnovers against OSU. But if you look at the future of the program, and, I'm going to throw out a few names, and obviously Cap knows them, but, you got Lewis Carter there on campus that's squatting 660. You got PJ Adebawore, that's the highest defensive recruit we've had since Gerald McCoy. David Stone coming in. Jaden Jackson, 320 pounds. I mean, it just, if you look at it from and Wallace made a good point earlier, on some inside information of give it 3 to 4 years. Like this, Lincoln Riley, I mean, we felt it when he was here, but now you see what's going on at USC, and it was completely clear that if you have an offense that you had in 2018 and you don't win a national championship, you're never going to. You're not. That offense in 2018 was historically amazing. There's no words to put it. And Baker played the best season of his life. And so you look at the future of OU's program, and yes, why it hurts now. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're going to look back on this rebuild period, really similar to the Thunder if you think about it, because the Thunder about 2 or 3 years from being really good, and so they've been going through a rebuild for the last 5-6 years. So it hurts now, but the optimism it obviously overshadows the pessimism that we're dealing with right now. With being critical on how the team's performing, but BV is absolutely the guy. It's not a discussion. People on Twitter will troll on it, and obviously these make-believe Twitter accounts that I don't know how they get 10,000 followers throw up just bizarre facts about, is BV the right? Well, hell yeah, he's the right guy. So that's my spill on it. Recruiting is just going to continue to get better. Had the fifth highest recruiting class in 2023. You're going to have a top 10 in 2024. You're recruiting the hell out of the state of Oklahoma in 25. So there's great things to feel good about.
Ryan.
So, yes.
Ryan, tell me if this is a crazy analogy, because I do think I think that if they were more experienced, if they say this was a team that had been playing together for a while, say this wasn't their first year with all the players they have, I think they could go 11-0. But I think learning how to win is a legitimate skill, and I liken it to like we know golfers that are capable of shooting under par, right? But it's you have to put yourself in position enough times to be comfortable to know like how to get through stretches where you're struggling. And one of that is like you have an identity as a player, right? And right now our team doesn't have much that they can, like when we struggle, what can we go back to? If you're Alabama, you can go to your run game. If you're Georgia, you can go to your run game right now. Or you can, before Brock Bowers got hurt, they could go to him. But once you kind of figure that out, like in golf, for example, like the first time I ever got close to shooting like under par or whatever, it was it's a mental. It's more of a mental block than physical. And I think sometimes, and especially right now when you're dealing with coaches that are new, like a new head coach, a lot of these coaches are not only coaching a Division I big time program, but Oklahoma. I think they're learning right now how they kind of want to handle winning and how they're going about it.
Yeah, and if you look at BV, he's a first-time head coach. You know, you give the golf analogy. Well, playing tournament golf and playing around with your buddies is completely different, right? So it's on-the-job experience. There's a big difference between tournament golf and going and drinking 10 beers and you know, seeing who can make the most bogeys with your buddies. And so there's a lot of, you know, that experience that BV's learning on the job. It's the same thing with Levy, guys. He had Heupel. He's had other coaches that have really walked him through the offensive coordinator role in a football team. And so he's having to learn as well. And, you know, the Levy's a hot topic, and I'm really not, you know, I don't want to get into that part of it, but the trajectory of OU is going to be good. It's a blue blood program. This program is not going anywhere. In the SEC, if OU continues to recruit like this, they better be afraid, boys. Because if OU figures it out and starts to be competitive in the SEC, there will not be a team in the country that will come close to beating them. I'm talking, you know, your 03 defense, your 2000 mentality. You know, you're taking it back to you can get over the hump. If you can get over the hump in the SEC, there will be national titles in Norman in our lifetime. Because you know, us millennials, we've seen one and we barely remember it.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating, man. Let me get to Saint Nick, Matt, real quick, since he hadn't gone yet, and then I'll get to you. Go ahead, Saint Nick.
All right, thank you, Chad. Sorry about I've been listening to everybody, and I've been hearing some great things. I guess what I want to focus on is the fan base. I think that they need to make sure that we understand, you know, the reality of the situation here. We have a coaching staff that had this team for 7 games playing better than every team in the country.
Hey, that was my bad. Go ahead, St. Nick. I tried to bring
I've been
somebody
muted
up.
this
Go
whole
ahead.
time.
No, you haven't. No, just the last 5 seconds. We had a request, but then he dropped, and then I muted you, brother. I would never mute you. Go ahead.
Okay, so so y'all heard pretty much most of that.
I heard playing better.
We heard
than
all of
any
it.
team
We
in the
heard all of
country.
it except the last 10 seconds.
Okay, good. All right. So the reality to me is that we have a coaching staff right now that had this team competing at the highest level of any team in the country. We had a top 10 offensive scoring, top 10 defensive scoring. We were either number 1, 3, 5, top 10 in so many categories. Complete night and day from what we've even seen, even when Riley was here, even offensively. I know it doesn't look that way because of the scores and all so forth, but the efficiencies are there. The difference that we're seeing right now is we have so many people that are either injured and they say, oh, that's not an excuse. Well, I got you. And in normal circumstance, not. But we got our backups are all freshmen or sophomores with very little experience. And I mean, it just makes a difference, especially when you're playing football in late October, November. That's when everybody's playing their best ball. And Oklahoma is just so happens to be, you know, dealing with more than most teams are. And the depth finally showed its unruly head like it did last year. Last year we had really no depth at all, so it reared its head earlier. Now it's based off of the injury. I think the last thing we need is for our fan base to, and I understand it's upsetting. No, I did not want to lose to Oklahoma State. Never. I don't want to even think about having to listen to them for the next however many years, but it is what it is. But looking forward, I really am excited to see how many new faces we get to see after what Brent Venables said today in the presser, you know, regarding the new faces that he's going to put on the field. You know, I think that's wonderful. You know, and I don't expect it to be a lot, but I do expect maybe what we'll see is more time given to them as each game, you know, proceeds. So I'm looking at we should see some of the freshman running backs now. We should see the freshman quarterback. See whomever they think that they can put in there and not lose too much validity to the team, but get some good quality snaps in that game and give us our experience ready. And to be honest with you, I feel absolutely sorry for whoever it is we play at a bowl game this year, because by then I expect most of these injuries that we're dealing with will be back up and running, and they're going to get a good shot from OU. I say that because of the bowl game last year. And I don't know. I believe we are headed in the right direction. I'm actually pretty optimistic, even with the losses. And you look at Texas. Texas is a really good team this year. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but hasn't their head coach is it 3 or 4 years? I thought it was 4 years he's been there, but somebody said it was he. I think I heard a reporter saying he was head of Brent Venables, but I could have swore he was there with. Maybe I'm wrong. But
Yeah, he
and
got there
he
in
didn't have the
2021.
mass exodus 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
So he 1 year. Okay. So he didn't have the mass exodus in. So he was already a step ahead of that. I just believe, I've always said this from the get-go, 2025 will be the year that we'll win the Natty. 2024, we may have a chance to play for it. But in 2025, you're going to have Jackson Arnold in his third year. You're going to have all that defensive talent that we brought in for last year, and this coming year in 24 will be, 2 seasons in, and it's going to be rich, and we're going to be deeper. And when that's when people are going to see the team that they expect to see now. The reality of it's not there, and it's not something that the staff can do. People
And
get hurt. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the benefit of that too is it's going to be a team that has that talent at the starting positions, but also has the depth behind it because they've been able to recruit that depth and supplement it through the portal. So you're going to be able to not, whenever you sub in now, you're not, and it's better than it was last year for sure, especially along the defensive line this year. But I'm just excited. Like you were saying, 2025 is when I think we're really going to be the team that is going to give a lot of teams problems. I think we'll be better next year, but 2025, I agree with you, is the year that we are going to kind of, I think, shake a lot of things up.
I agree 100%. I've said it from the get-go. Well, that's what it's been forever, really, right? Coach comes in, his staff comes in, and I know the poor can help and help, right? To be honest with you, if we had a portal mercy, I mean, this year would have been like without the portal. So
it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
I want to get to let me get over here to Matt real quick. He's had his hand up for a few minutes. Sorry, Saint Nick. Saint Nick, real quick. If it's probably my headset, but you were cutting out, so I'll probably need to charge my headset. But if I interrupted you there, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I want to go back to a point that Wallace was making earlier about people who are contributing to NIL wanting to focus more in on proven guys through the transfer portal rather than high school juniors and kids coming in that you just don't really know enough about them or much about them to try and make an investment like that. Along those lines, I'm expecting OU to make a really serious push to get some difference makers along the interior defensive line through the transfer portal here this year, and we'll see who that is. There's definitely some names floating out there. Obviously, there's David Hicks, and who knows what's going to happen with Texas A&M. But there's a lot of other guys, and I think if you're looking for what's most likely, I think you're probably looking at somebody like DeJoun Terry, his level, guy that's maybe started some at an SEC level school or has that type of ability, but has been playing somewhere else to come in. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see OU swing for the fences and to see a lot of willingness on the NIL side to really make an effort to push there. That's really all I got there. I'll keep it brief.
Yeah, well, and we all know that's before you win these games, man. You really, once you can dominate the defensive line or offensive line, you got it, man. Coach Lumen, real quick, Wallace, want to go to Lumen real quick. He's just joined us. What do you got to say, Coach?
A couple things. We go back to St. Nick with playing the freshmen. Jackson Arnold's already played in 2 games, I believe, so you can't burn that red shirt. And same thing with some of the others.
He's already burned his. He's played in 4. Just to
4. Okay,
yeah,
well,
he's burned it.
Okay, we talked about playing freshmen though, so there's 3 games left. Do you really want to do that with some of those kids that may have played early? I don't know. Second thing, gap schemes. Got the best offensive line coach in the country, and your dad talked about running pin and pull. It was successful, and then we run RPO stuff off inside zone, and we get stuffed the offensive line. That's what's frustrating with me with the offense. Like I said in my tweets, there's not a whole lot of identity there. You don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball down the field. How many underthrows have we seen on throws of 30-plus yards just last week? So, and again, I'm not blaming it on a kid. It's just what we've got is what we've got. So you got to find a way to have an identity. And how successful have we been in the last 4 years running GT schemes, running down block pull, whether it be GT Chuck on the second or third play of the game the other night. So, and the third thing I got is our defensive play caller hasn't played the last 6 quarters of the game. Stutzman. That's been the biggest problem defensively that I've seen is you don't have your dude out there to get people lined up. We had a corner lining everyone up at the end of the Kansas game. So I don't think we're far off, but those are the biggest differences I've seen in the first 6 games and the last 2 games is, and I'm not making an excuse, but when your guy, it's like not having Gabriel last year in the Texas game calling the offense. You don't have your guy calling the defense and getting people lined up, making checks, making, audibles on the defensive call against other people's offenses. So that's what I've got.
And I'm hoping, like Matt had talked about earlier, where I hope some of those coaches, if there really was a good reflection. And one thing my dad brought up that he didn't mention in his when he went earlier is, coaches, especially at that level, they have to be able to, kind of overcome their own pride. Like, you get to that level because you really believe a lot of, obviously they know a lot of football, but you get there because you truly believe what your philosophy works really well. And it's the best philosophy for what you like to do. And like you're saying, Coach Lou, Dylan, for whatever, like I feel like last year he even threw the deep ball better. I don't know if it's a shoulder thing or what, but I go back to like the Kansas State game when he threw those deep ones to Marvin Mims. Those were 55-yarders, and right now he's struggling to throw it past, it gets past 40 yards, and he's floating it a little bit, like on a 3.5 ball like I was talking about earlier.
Balloon balls.
Yeah, and like that doesn't work. You can't do that. You got to drive those. You can't, and like you're saying, and that's where if you're Levy, you got to say, look, I can't keep putting this, because I think that's one reason also why we're not seeing Brennan Thompson as much is because he gets it's not his fault. He's just too fast probably for Dylan's arm right now, and he gets too far down the field. And I'm hoping that, like you're saying, I hope there's adjustments from not so much RPO to where they really do start let those linemen come off the line and start blocking, really attacking, which Colin can speak more to that too. But yeah,
my big thing is the gap scheme was way more successful than the zone schemes were last week for sure. And I haven't gone back and looked at everything, but Lincoln Riley's still running GT at USC, and he's an air raid guy, but he's still running GT. So if the gap scheme works, keep doing
it. And what he's great at, and well, also speaking of losing, not overcoming your pride. You see Lincoln Riley finally have to make if it was actually him that made the decision, fire one of his good friends in Grinch. You got to make these changes, and I'm hopeful that they will. I think they will, especially with what Matt was saying earlier, with who he talks to and whatnot. But let me go to real quick. Wallace, what's up, man? Go ahead.
No, gratuitous plug for me. First OU home game I ever went to was the '85. It was season opener, October 19th against Miami, 1985, the year we won the national championship. Troy got hurt. When the game was over, my brother and I were collecting programs and cups, and the band came on the field, and we didn't realize that they played a concert at the end. Next game, same deal. We're picking up cups. We didn't care who we played for the programs, and the band played again. So ever since then, brother and I, he doesn't come to games anymore, but we always stay for every game for the band concert. And so I've been financially supporting the band for many, many, many years. Bought their summer outfits this year, and so they've asked me to be a honorary drum major. And November 11th is my birthday, West Virginia game. So this game, I don't know what that entails, being the honorary drum major, but if you guys are at the game.
That's awesome.
Whatever that entails, I'm going to be the honorary drum major.
Wallace, you going to bend your back and all that stuff like they do?
25 years ago, I would. If I don't know.
Hey, Wallace, we appreciate your support as a fan base for sure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Wallace, if you're absolutely. Like me, that might earn you a trip to the ER. It would me for sure.
I may just give him the look. But
no,
anyway.
you got to drag the back of your head on the ground, bend that thing back.
I'll be 57 years old on November 11th. I don't think I'll be doing that.
ACOS 80. I saw you wave. If you want to come up, just request, and I'll try to get. And that goes if anyone else down there wants to speak or come give their opinion. We're gonna go for a little longer here. You're free to do that. Just try to keep it to a little bit PG. That'd be helpful. Dad, let me ask you a question. If you were scheming OU right now, and I know that you don't get all the 22 film that they do, where is our weakness on offense? I think it's clear that people don't like there is some like Coach Lou was talking about the gap scheme and zone scheme, philosophies. Is it like you were talking about during the Kansas and even in the Oklahoma State or the UCF game, actually in the Oklahoma State game? Right now they are just taking away flats, and is that where Levy needs to start trying to be more over the intermediate game and over the middle? Or what are you seeing? Like, what would you do right now if you're self-scouting and you're Levy? What are you saying? Hey, we just aren't. Teams are taking this away. We got to make this adjustment.
Well, in the Kansas game, they put 11 guys up on the line. I mean, the safeties were like 8 yards deep. They were just begging us to throw the ball. And I'm not too sure that DG's healthy. I'm like everybody else. He's throwing a balloon ball. I've never seen him do that before.
Well, and let me ask sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but he's not running. I mean, one of the greatest weapons he had is his running ability.
Yeah,
he ran the ball.
Yeah,
there's something
negative 7 yards this week.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's something. But you know what? Lumen talked about, the pin and pull and double G pull and all that stuff. I think they're better doing that because when you do the RPO, those offensive linemen don't know if it's run or pass. So you're soft. You're not coming off the foot. If it's truly split zone, then you get the double team and you push that guy into the linebacker, and then you come off, and then you get the aggressiveness out of your offensive line. What offensive lineman doesn't want to run? They want to run their football. They want to be able to come off, pin your ears back, and let's go block. They love doing that. And I think that's when you self-scout. You say, what's the best thing we're doing right now? Well, to me, it's either split split zone, or we're pulling. We're doing pulling. And I'll tell you something else we've never done is with the boot. Why wouldn't you boot DG? Come on now. And get him out there where he can see. It's an easy throw. It's 3 levels. It puts a lot of pressure on the defense. And I haven't really seen that. They did try to run some of the mesh, but it was a little deeper, and it was open. But that entails you got to know if you're man or zone when you do that, and that takes some practice when you run the mesh route. But it's great. They are taking her outside. Everybody knows what we're going to do. We're going to throw that little 5-yard out or 8-yard out, and they're taking it away. We see that. We've self-scouted. Okay, what do we need to do different here? Okay, and I know they have it. They just got to do. But I think the thing that's dictating it is is our quarterback. Is he healthy? We don't know. You know, they hide that stuff. They don't want anybody else to know it, and they do. So is it advantageous to keep? If he is really hurt, it really hurts our offense because there was times that early in the year he could throw the deep ball. It was going there. We made some really nice plays. He actually overthrew some receivers. Kind of made me upset. But these last two balls that I've seen, it looks like could bring rain, is not that's not him. So, but scouting our offense, heck, you got to take the runaway and outside pass because they can't throw deep. So I'm putting 11 in the box, and I'm just saying I dare you to throw and beat me. And that's what Kansas did. They did a really good job, and OSU kind of did that a little bit too, and used a lot of their safety help to stop our run. Um, but I think there's something going on with the quarterback we don't know about. I may be wrong. I don't know if anybody you guys see that, but man, that's what I'm seeing. Something's going on there, and I don't know what it is.
Coach Lee, what do you think?
If he's not healthy, Coach Smith is right. Boot him out. Do what Baker Mayfield does best. Throw on the run. Baker's not a runner, but Baker throws the ball the best moving out of the pocket. And that's not sprinting out like they did on fourth down to end the game. It's countering it, going the other way, and finding crossers over the middle of the field, which is what Dylan Gabriel throws the best. Dylan Gabriel's an intermediate passer. The throw to Stoops against Texas, intermediate pass. We don't need to be throwing the bubble screen, Josh Heupel era, or the swing pass, which is what we open the game with a lot of the time. Let's throw the swing. Let's throw the swing. Let's throw the swing. Let's get that guy moving because he can run, and let him throw across his body even to the middle of the field and go from there. But sitting back in the pocket with no drop, by the way, we do a lot of play action or faux play action where we flash the fake to the running back, and Dylan Gabriel pats his feet a la Landry Jones in the pocket and doesn't take a drop. He's a short quarterback. Why are we standing there in the pocket with a short quarterback and not letting him drop back and get a view of the field when he's an intermediate passer?
Right. Yeah. That stuff's just, I don't get that either. And I think some of that short mesh route. I mean, one of the hard things about those route concepts, especially if they're mesh, right off the, a couple yards behind the D line, sort of in that window between linebackers and D line, is you do need to be taller really to see those windows. I mean, you don't have to be super tall, but you need to be taller than what I think DG is to really be able to run that effectively. Tony Romo was always really good at those routes, by the way. That's kind of who I like to model whenever I threw him after. He was so good at throwing those, and they're impossible to stop if you run them correctly, especially with how much man they're running.
And by the time those routes develop, both defensive ends are equal or two behind him, and the front or the blitz that's coming, he's a short guy. He can't see over that, which he still does well, but take a 3-step drop instead of just patting your feet where you took the snap from.
Do you think some of that is that RPO, that faux, if he's running that RPO, he's trying to get rid of it quickly so he doesn't think he can drop?
Yeah, but the problem is when it's not RPO, he still doesn't take a drop. When's the last time you saw Dylan Gabriel take a 3-step drop out of the shotgun or a 5-step drop, which would be the equivalent in the NFL of a 7-step drop out of under center?
Yeah, no, I couldn't tell you. It's a good call out. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. It's a good call. I'm hoping to see some changes on it. I wouldn't mind, this is where, the Levy discussion again. I'm holding, tough criticism of him because I do think Arnold's ability to, if you get there early enough in warmups, this is for just whoever's listening, when you watch them go through their warmups, their route trees when they're throwing to the receivers, watch the way Arnold can drive the ball whenever he's throwing that deep ball to the end zone. He's right at the back pylon. You could see the spin he puts on the ball, and it's the angle he throws it at. It's so in quarterbacking, you can throw like a 1 ball, which is like a hitch route. You're just lacing it. A 2 is like your intermediate passing game, which is what Coach Lumen was talking about with what Dylan throws well. And then your 3 ball is like your fade routes, your go routes, your deep balls. And then Hail Marys and stuff are like they're not really in the numbering system. They're just kind of fluttering balls, but. what Jackson has, I mean, he has elite arm talent, and he's able to, even straight out of high school, he can throw a 2.5 on a 45-yard pass. I mean, that's like the Jalil Farouk ball that was underthrown. That's a touchdown if you have a quarterback that has the arm strength to get it to him, and that's what's crazy. It's I've seen Dylan make that throw, and then you combine the underthrows with the fact he's not running these last 3 games. I wonder if in the UCF game maybe something happened, or I don't know. I can't put I can't put my finger on it, but he had the bye week before, so I don't suspect he was coming into the UCF game injured, unless they hid that from us. But I really want to see Arnold get a chance to really run the offense, because I think that he will do really well. Now I'm not in the switch out players at all. I still think Dylan this year gives us the best chance to win most games, but next year that guy he's going to be special. And St. Nick talked about earlier, high school doesn't always translate to college, but whenever you have that kind of success, that builds a confidence in a player that does translate a lot. And he has never backed down from a challenge, either that be the skill competitions he won, the Elite 11 that he was MVP of. And I compare that to a guy like Arch Manning right now. I think one of the reasons he's not playing is either the Mannings have told Texas that they don't want him to get any playing time as a true freshman, or he's just not confident really that he can go out there and do that. Because you see him in high school and he doesn't go to any competitive competition, no 7-on-7 tournaments, no Elite 11. That's where I kind of wonder where the difference is in the mentality of those two players. Dad, PLS, go ahead.
Well, we're talking about Dylan, and I'm sitting here watching the Texas highlights. There ain't no comparison to how he's throwing the ball now and how he threw it versus Texas. It ain't even close. He's got the spin on the ball. He's throwing it 100 miles an hour. He's running. That's a healthy quarterback that I'm watching versus Texas. And I don't know. There's something I hate. There's something going on, because it's not the same guy that I'm watching here. Is not the same guy that we're watching now. So I don't know if he's hurt his shoulder or something that's causing the throw, but he's running, he's throwing. I mean, he's throwing things. He's zipping the ball down the field. He's throwing the long ball. This is not the same quarterback. So I don't know what it is, because I don't get that inside information, but I think there's something going on, and that definitely affects our offense and what we can and can't do with him.
That's our bat signal to Cap. No, I'm just messing. Um, Anyone else want to come up and say a few things, or anyone that's a speaker, Hote, Safani, any of you guys have some points you want to make, or final points? St. Nick?
No, I'm good. No, I appreciate
St.
you.
Nick's
Thank
eating
you.
the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
I can tell.
I will give
Chad, I'll just go ahead, Stephon.
I will give Stog one piece of praise. I thought his blocking was very subpar the last game, but he did seal off a great block on Sacek's TD run. So that, in my opinion, that doesn't happen if he doesn't seal that off. I don't know why it couldn't be as. I mean, I think Chad, your dad said he was out athlete, which I agree with, but I at least got to give him that praise, man. He sealed that block off well. If you go back and watch it, and Sacek takes it to the house, so that was nice to see. But no, I mean, a lot of good points tonight. I've been kind of thinking same thing about DG. Just hasn't looked the same, and I didn't know if for some reason there was a confidence piece of that. I didn't think that there was, but I don't know. I mean, I think if I went back and I looked at one throw a while back, because there's always the DG haters that he can't throw the long ball. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he hit, I want to say it was Brennan, maybe in the Iowa State game, and that ball was like 60, 65 yards in the air, something like that I went back and I watched and I saw. And so, I mean, it's there. I don't know why it's ballooning the way it is right now, but it's just not as precise as he was throwing.
Yeah, and we have our theory. I think he got it. He throws a good when he's healthy. He throws a good ball that's 35, 45 yard. But whenever maybe probably 52. But right now I just think, man, seeing it, he just doesn't have the zip on it that he did even the beginning of last year. And I'm telling you, I know the Kansas State game's tough film to watch, but I mean that throw he threw to Mims when we went down 14. That was the other side of the hash. He threw it right at the end zone from about 60 yards out. You got to have a strong arm to make those throws, and he certainly isn't even close to that right now. And our theory, I guess, right now is just I think he's dealing with something that we just don't know about. But Coach Lou, go ahead. I saw your hand wave.
Well, if you remember last year, how little Dylan ran compared to Jackson Dart the year before at Ole Miss, and then at the beginning of the year this year, they're running the hell out of him, right? I mean, especially against Texas. Something's got to be wrong. Maybe with the shoulder. I don't know what it is, but like your dad said, the deep ball doesn't look good right now. He's throwing balloon balls. He's throwing. I can't even get there. I mean, there's so many underthrown deep balls that are touchdowns that are not getting there. And again, it's not a shot at the kid. It's what's happening. And they're not running them now. So there's got to be a correlation between what happened 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago with him running the football, throwing the deep ball well to now. So something's not adding up with that.
No, I agree. I think something's going on. I hope maybe we'll find out in the year or something. Brian,
Chad, I was gonna bring up the point of Jackson Arnold, because the comparison between him and Manning, and yes, Manning didn't go to those Elite 11 competitions, but Jackson Arnold played in 6A Texas football, and March Manning played in 3A Louisiana football. So there is a big gap as far as the jump from the next level in the comparison of those two. Because I'm going to get off here in a second, but I think the big thing now is we need to challenge the fan base to obviously remain positive, but we've got to bring some kind of energy into this night game in West Virginia. And because I go to Stillwater this past weekend, and man, the atmosphere, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to shoot you straight. The atmosphere was great. They had live music playing. It just felt like football. Old school, just backyard football, and then they brought it into the stadium, and it was loud, and it had a big impact on that game, especially in that snap to the missed snap to Barnes that was supposed to go to Gabriel. So my challenge is for the fan base to really get behind these boys. We've lost 2 straight. We shouldn't have lost those 2 games, and they're obviously Venables is going to have them ready to respond as the best they can. So we as a fan base, we've got to be ready to go on Saturday under the lights. And with, Captain mentioned Briggs coming in, need to have a good football environment for these recruits and obviously for the current players, because in Venables even who mentioned it? Gosh darn it. Well, they even mentioned it might have been one of the relatives that was in that space after the Bedlam game, one of the dads. He was like, if you don't think these players don't want to win it just as much as the fans, you're crazy. He said these kids don't want to lose this game. And so we as fans have that mentality of, man, we should have won that game. Why aren't they playing harder? These kids are playing as hard as they can. We have just had some bad turnovers that have affected 2 games. We've lost 2 games now by 8 points. That's one drive. So we're there. And I was very critical on Monday with a few tweets because, I sometimes get emotional. But at the end of the day, OU is in a good state of mind. We have the right person at the helm. But the biggest challenge is for the fan base is to continue to be supportive. We've got to be loud. We've got to bring the football environment to Norman, because if you're asking me, and this is just straight up, I thought OSU had a better environment now it is Bedlam, but I thought OSU had a lot better environment on Saturday than we have at home at all this year. And I've been to 3 of those games. And that's my honest opinion on it. Not to say that OU can't improve that. I don't know if it's because the stadium boom pickings is a lot tighter and OU is obviously holding more and a little bit bigger. But that's my challenge for the fan base. Get behind them. I think OU is going to be fine. I think we're going to win these next 3 games. I genuinely do. I think Wallace even mentioned, no, he's not here now. He mentioned that he thinks it's going to be an early game at BYU. I'm on the contrary. I think they're going to make OU play at 9:15 out there in the mountains. I think it's going to be a late game. And I sent out something earlier, if Kansas State beats Kansas and, Texas dropped one, it's between K-State and OU to play OSU, and they go to the highest rated team that both have played, and that's Texas. And we have that head-to-head. So the season is not over. And on Saturday, you really felt like it was. But if you look at it, no, you don't control your own destiny. But there are routes to get to where you want to be. And if you can get to the Big 12 title game, play OSU, holy shit, excuse my language, but man, that would be electric. And I think, yes, the Big 12 refs are probably going to have some hand in on it, but I think OU comes out and just doesn't even make – the refs can't do anything about it. We'll see. But I'm going to get off here. Great space, Chad.
Hey, Smith. Thanks for joining. Go ahead, Coach Lou. And I agree with all your points, Ryan. I'm going to make a tweet about that later, probably.
Two things on what Ryan said. The reason Arch Manning's not playing is because Arch Manning's not very good. One. The second thing is, I think the direct snap to the running back was actually supposed to happen. The handoff was supposed to happen, and it was going to be a reverse pass that Drake Stoops was going to throw. And it was just botched.
I know Colton wants to say something to that.
Yeah, I will defend whenever, that play happened, at first I thought, what the hell happened? But I went back and I've watched it like 10 or 12 times. And Coach, you're right. That's exactly what was going to happen. Now, the ball that was snapped off Gabriel's knee, we can blame Rame on that one all day. I won't let my boy take the blame for that one, though. That ball was supposed to go to Barnes. Barnes didn't catch it. And then instead of just going to the ground, we get the fumble, we get the play around. But that was definitely a direct snap.
Completely agree.
Yep. All right, PLS, Dad, you got anything? It's just so weird not to call you, but it's no one else knows you're my dad except for those that know me, and it's just weird calling for them, I bet it's weird hearing someone call a random Twitter account Dad. PLS, do you have any last points?
No, I think everybody said their piece, and I'm like, I think we need to get behind our team, and we need to make sure that we're doing what's right for OU football, for our recruits to get here, so that we do compete for a national championship. It might sound crazy, but guys, stranger things have happened. We could do it next year, surprise a lot of people. We've got a lot of good players, and they're young. We got some good ones coming in. But I know in 25, I expect us to be there and having fun beating Alabama and Georgia, because and I hate LSU. I don't know why, but I can't stand that program. But so I'm ready for the SEC. I'm excited. We need to build our team up. Let's get behind them so we get the best players. So when we go in there, we compete. I know it's a raw thing, but it's a real thing. And we've got to make sure we're being positive to our fan base and to the players and pump them up. And let's go. Let's win it out and let the chips fall where they may. And we may end up playing Oklahoma State again. And that would be awesome. Good night, everybody. This was a great Spaces. I loved it. Thank you, Chad.
Family.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to try to top that with some great speech to end the night, man. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Thank you all for joining. It really means a lot.
Can we just all start calling him Dad? That'll just make it easier.
Man,
Let's just all start calling him Dad.
Well, it's like I never called my parents by their first name. My mom would have slapped me back to, I've just been in a lot of trouble, so I've always just called him Dad or Father, and it's just I can't say Paul. It's just odd to me. So it's hard for me I don't know what to say because anyways that's a weird. Anyways, yeah, we do it every Tuesday, man. We really appreciate everyone joining. It means a lot that you guys take time, and hopefully we can have some other people come up next week after we beat West Virginia and have some more happy and good things to talk about. So again, we appreciate it. We'll see y'all next Tuesday. Boomer.
Boomer.
Hey, Coach, send the missus my best.
Thanks for that, Ryan. I appreciate it, man.
I will.